We're online, watch what you say.
Nope,
Okay.
but I'll have to check a couple
Paula
times.
and Clark, the chair is out tonight, so I'm stuck with me as vice chair. So I'll call the meeting to order. We're having a public hearing tonight. Which means that members of the public can offer comments and ask questions. And what we usually do is have the applicants first come up and describe the project briefly. And answer questions from the planning board and then the public. So do you both, or one of you want to talk?
Hi, thanks for having us again. So our proposal is to build an indoor riding arena at our established horse boarding facility to allow our boarders to be able to exercise their horses safely year round. I don't know what else to say. It's all in here.
Maybe you could address one issue that's come up is, it's in your application, is how you propose to control storm removal.
So my understanding is when they put the building in, there's drainage around the building and then we're doing vegetative buffer around the building.
And when you say vegetative buffer, what do you have in mind?
Shrubs, varieties of shrubs.
You mentioned some other things in your application. Besides the vegetative buffer. Grading, redirecting runoff to vegetative areas, covering exposed soils with erosion control blankets if necessary.
That's during the, building.
Surrounding the building with proper storm drains.
Right, so they do like rip wrap drains is my understanding around the outside. Raised excavation is doing the site work for us. And so, and then we have planned to do the vegetative shrubs around the outside. So whatever comes down gets absorbed into the ground there.
Are you cutting down any trees or anything else for the structure?
There are some trees out behind in the woods section that we are taking down, but there's nothing
No
on,
property line trees,
and nothing on the flat area that's open now that's
Right.
coming down.
just the trees on the back edge, on the top of our property drops off pretty steeply in the back.
So we're just taking down anything that could fall on the structure.
How wide will the vegetative buffer be?
Well, the riprap will be, however they determine, probably 3 to 4 feet, 5 feet on the edge of the building, and then we're gonna put the vegetative buffer at the edge of all the riprap, so that any extra water will be absorbed.
I guess it's whatever's required. We don't have like a landscaping plan for it yet.
So you
But-
don't know for sure how wide that vegetative buffer will be?
Well, currently, we have the entire grass area from where the building will be to the road and where the building will be all the way to the driveway. So none of that's coming out. So that's already in place.
That's grass.
So, yeah, and
Grass,
so,
trees, there's trees.
yeah, there's trees and grass
Grass and trees
in that section already.
Grass,
None of that's
trees,
coming out.
Yeah, we're not taking anything
So
out.
we're just adding more shrubs and bushes around the structure itself.
Okay.
How far back is the structure from the road?
At least 250 feet, probably closer to 300 be the front edge, because it's gonna sit all the way in the back of the field,
And on the side?
on the house side, all the way in the back,
Is it-
What's the setback on the side?
at least 40
The
feet.
setback on the side, so it's coming out diagonally, so it's about 40 feet from the stone wall, which is on the school side. And then it's about 80 feet, once you get it all the way out to the end, it's about 80 feet from the
So the
school, side.
back corner will probably be 40, and the front corner will probably be twice that,
About 80
because it's
feet.
gonna be angled back towards,
And on the back side of the structure, is the ground there sloping down
yes,
away from?
Yep.
Yep.
So stuff that falls, precipitation that falls on the back side of this.
Just goes into our woods.
which we are building a huge, like riprap area to collect any runoff of.
So that it doesn't erode.
Because we're gonna have the horses past the building and go down into the woods on the backside, so there's gonna be plenty of room between us and the school. And when we get to the back of and the building is the building is like this, so the ends are flat. I'm not really sure how much water is gonna come off the ends, as it's a more of a rounded building. But anything that does come off the
We'll
end,
go, yeah,
yeah, we're gonna
Down
have
the
like
hill.
a rip
into the woods.
catch back there. Because we don't wanna lose any of our topsoil from the back of the building down the hill either, so.
One other question, what do you do with the manure?
We
No,
compost
We
it.
compost it on site.
Something you store?
It's,
It just turns back into dirt.
yeah, so the horse area, the horses live on a track system. So the track is 15 feet wide and it winds around the field you see and down through the woods, and it's about 2 miles long. So we compost it on the outsides in the vegetative areas where the horses don't go. That's what we've been doing for the past 5 years, and that's what we'll continue to do with it.
Do you sell the compost?
No,
No, we break it up.
it's mixed in with like the leaves and the branches that fall down from the trees, and yeah, it's like out in the woods. It would take someone to come out and rake it up and separate it, and
We
it just goes back into the earth
we actually use commercial grade leaf blowers.
to demolish
And
it,
once you bust it up, it just
pretty much
push
compost.
it outside of the
almost
track area and it just becomes dirt again. It also helps like our fly population, any of that, we don't have any of those issues because we don't have huge.
We don't have a
fire on
pile
site.
anywhere.
We had plans to put a huge manure pile near the road and have the raids come and take it all the time, but once we discovered how to break it down and turn it back into earth,
We didn't need to do
we didn't
that.
need to do that anymore. So we don't.
Readfield thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'd much rather take care of it ourselves, and like I said, the more you leave manure around in places, you're gonna get more concentration of flies and other things that you don't want, so.
Any other question?
I have one. And when I ask this, don't assume that I'm saying you should have done this. But have you received any legal opinion about whether the proposed indoor riding facility should be considered an agricultural structure under our land use ordinance?
It is an
It
agricultural
is an
structure.
agricultural structure.
It's already been
That's already
described.
been described, that's already
By
been taken
Paula.
care of by Paula on we came in front of the appeals board and we shouldn't have. Because they determined that it was an agricultural structure.
Well, actually, I'm looking at the minutes of the planning board meeting, I'm sorry, the Board of Appeals meeting of May 29th, where one member of the board, Mr. Brzonka, asked about the agricultural aspect of the land use ordinance wording and whether the horse business would fit within those parameters. According to the minutes, it was noted that the planning board will assess this, will assess that issue. So I guess I think we have to assess it.
So was that I didn't know if that was the first minutes or the second minutes, because I mean, it's determined that it was an agricultural structure. The question was whether, and it was exempt from the height restriction. But then it just needed planning board approval because of the size of the structure to be built.
Are those the final minutes?
Yes, and it's minutes of the meeting where they reconsidered. I don't know if they're final minutes, the ones on the website. The only ones on the website.
The reconsideration is because they said it was out of their jurisdiction because it's an agricultural structure. It's exempt from the height restriction, and that was the only reason we went to them was for the height restriction.
Do you remember the date of that second meeting?
Yeah.
May 29th.
If that was the second
Well,
meeting.
I don't know if that's the second meeting or the first.
No, the first is May 1st.
So the only
I have minutes
reason
for that too.
we had to go to the variance board was because of the height was 5 feet too high as far as a building is concerned, but when they determined it was an agricultural structure, they said that they didn't need to rule on it because it was exempt.
Yes, my understanding is that the town attorney looked at it
Mhm.
and determined that it's an agricultural structure,
Right,
therefore that exception.
correct.
And that the only reason they asked us to come to the planning board was because of the scope of the project.
Right.
Was
Because
really
of the
what was-
square footage, it has to be, anything above 3,000 square feet has to come before the planning board. So they said that's why we had to come before the planning board.
So you didn't need the variance.
Correct,
You need the variance.
right. Because we thought the variance was just for the height restriction, because that was the only obstacle that anyone originally saw with the project. Was just that it was 5 feet taller than the allowable, the usual building. but being agriculture, it was exempt from that.
Maybe we'll take some public comment.
Sure.
Okay.
Do we sit?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're a member of the public and you want to comment, come up to the podium and just say your name and your address.
Okay.
Probably some of you know why I'm here. And it is, my name is Susan Collier, and I live on 53 South Road, across the road from them. The domains have said they will help me with the drainage problems. However, I am still concerned about drainage. Back in 2023, it was either the end of 2022 probably, or 2023, they had 2 rock drains that went directly to where a culvert is that goes onto my property. And I've lived there for 35 years, and I've complained on and off for 35 years because my property gets a lot of water from that culvert. The school redid baseball field up there, runs into Domain's property, which runs into that ditch, which runs onto my property. Some of the school field runs into the ditch, which runs down, runs into my property. When they put those culverts there, nobody contacted me. I would have assumed it should have needed town approval because they're draining more water onto somebody else's property. I don't know if the town permitted it, or if they just said, go ahead and do it. I don't know that. But I got a lot of drainage that year because of, we had water mains in here. So it floods, it goes partway down my property, floods through my gardens, which washes out everything, goes in front of my septic leach field, down the side of my septic leach field, into fruit trees, into the woods. The water that continues down to goes into another part of my woods, which is also killing trees. And that's not all because of them, but I'm getting more water. And my fear is that I will get even more water. I know they're putting up barriers, but I have barriers along the ditch that don't keep the water in. So that concerns me. The lay of the land slopes down toward that ditch. It would make sense that I would probably get more drainage. Again, they said they can help me, but unless that water is rerouted someplace, even if they put a ditch in front of their property, I can send you pictures. Earlier this year, we had a day when we just were supposed to get 1 inch of rain. And we didn't even have 1 inch of rain, and water was pouring down inland, and the culvert was almost full. So if they have a ditch in the front of their property that doesn't go anywhere, that's gonna flood the South Road. I've been in contacting the town in the past with rude remarks, not kind remarks I felt, but I need some help. And I sent this to the select board also. My other concern is, and I'm not gonna say this is gonna happen, but it's a big business, and the only reason I know this is because I was at the last meeting. They said their plan is to have 24 horses, and they say they have 8.5 acres of land. And again, I didn't know that before. 8.5 acres of land with buildings, riding ring, paid buildings, house, parking area. I feel that's not a lot of land for 24 horses. And they're very conscientious, but I'm worried about water. I'm worried there's a lot of neighborhood well water. I don't say that anything's gonna happen, but I think there needs to be a plan in place in case we start having well water problem. I don't know what the back of their land looks like, but I know if I go walk out behind the school, there's a big drop in elevation. So if I'm or anybody else is on the same water vein, a water vein that from my property is pretty deep, if that vein is over that way, and again, I don't know. I just feel that could be a problem. And one thing that made me think of that problem was they do level their pastures, but this past winter, we had a lot of ice, a lot of snow. They didn't get blown out for a while. In the spring, they blew out along the road. It lined the whole ditch. So all of that would have been running down the ditch onto my property. Probably not a big deal, it's on the side, but on the side, but it also blew up on the road, which all of that drainage from the road does go to the front of my property. So again, I just think there needs to be plans in place, and things happen, maybe they have a plan now, I don't know. But those are my concerns. The town's response to anything that ever I've gone to them is the culvert has always been there. And I'm afraid if 10, 20 years down the road, we have well water problems, whether they have the property or somebody else, someone is gonna say, well, the business has always been there. There's nothing we can do about it. And I think there just needs to be a plan in place.
Did you see the letter from the town manager that was?
I did not.
It's pretty much what you say, except that the town suggests that the drainage ditch, that's a good name, the drainage ditch that's on your property, it's not on the town's property. It's not on the town highway. And if you maintain that ditch, you drain away the water.
But I'm getting a ton of water, I'm getting a ton of water, and I can't maintain that ditch all the time. I will tell you when I'm upset with the town manager, because I had gone to the town with pictures of everything, and here it was overflowing, and I was told, oh no, it's overflowing someplace else. And well, I have pictures that show where it's overflowing, because we had somebody come and dig it a while back. And
The problem is that we're reviewing their proposed structure,
right,
and our job is to make sure that stormwater runoff from that structure is minimized.
right,
All the other drainage that's coming from their property or the school's property, it's not really before us.
okay.
It's-
Okay, so I sent a letter to the select board also, but I just think everyone needs to know it's a concern. There's a lot of water coming from their property and from down the South Road. And the town's response is the culvert has always been there, but things have changed, even if weather has changed. I can't control the weather, nor can the town. I can't control what was done at the school or on their property. But I can't maintain that ditch all the time, even with all that water. Just from where the town manager came over and told my son he should dig, I believe, in a certain place. And when we had the ditch dug, it was like a buffer to slow down the water. It widened out, it was not dug, and then went back into the ditch. Just in the 2 years since my son dug just a little ditch, 6 inches deep, probably 6 inches wide, that is now anywhere from 18 to 28 inches wide and over a foot deep. And, I just think it's a concern. With the more building that comes on, it's more of a concern. And I realize you're just worried about the building, but for me, I think there needs to be a plan, because that's a concern of more drainage. And I don't think it should be all out of the case. I don't think they can help it by themselves. I think the town needs to look at the road and how the drainage goes.
I want to give you, probably the town manager.
I think it's unfortunate you were not copied on this email. That's,
I've contacted the town enough.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'll just say I appreciate you coming today and with those comments, and I think it is important that you continue to speak to the town boards.
Speaking for 35 years.
Yeah, I think these issues are a little separated, to some degree, but I think your concern is it's a valid concern. I think it's probably a combination of things that need to be done on personal property, which is probably beyond what you want to do or expected to do, but also, it's also probably a combination between the town considering what it may be able to do longer term, like you're asking. But I think you should speak to the select board. I would encourage you to do that. Go to one of their meetings. Yeah, I go to one of their meetings too, you know, the road committee and the road commission that can talk about that sort of stuff.
My suggestion is that we take further comment, then by this time, if Ms. Bollier wants to comment on this email, by that time, she's had a chance to read it, she have the opportunity to do that.
One thing I wanted to ask you as well, the applicants, were up here just a little bit ago and talked about the fact that they were composting manure. Are you fairly comfortable with that idea, or?
I don't know, 28 horses is a lot of manure, I don't know, I thought I was okay with it until the spring, I saw that all in the ditch and on the road. I don't think it's gonna be 28 horses. It's a lot more, and again, they may have a plan, I haven't asked them, and I don't know how their trails are gonna change with the line. But I just wanted to make that concern.
Can I just answer your question to some degree? Sure. The state of Maine has quite strict regulations and guidance on manure management, which is beyond the scope of Readfield. And so the demands would be, you know, follow those sort of guidelines and rules. To say we can't do that. Planning board. The state, the good news is the state does have guidance related to management. It's a free for all. So that's good.
Other people have comments?
Hello, my name is Kelly Cameron, and I live on 46 Ledgewood Drive. And my property just upstairs, just a little tiny corner. And I did take the time today to go out into the woods in that scorching heat and walk right up to your property, where my property line ends, and see the horses in the woods. And unfortunately, I didn't see this riprap area that you described where drainage is going to be done.
Yeah, we have a town that permit.
Started.
Okay, all right. And then also, I did hear them comment on the industrial leaf blower that they have. I'm well aware of that. Sometimes on a Sunday, I hear it blowing for 5 or 6 hours. And my husband was just driving up the South Road the other day, and he couldn't even see the other side of the South Road because they were blowing it, and they blow it into the edge of the woods, which goes down into the ditch. So as I understand, that the water goes into the ditch, it drains down either into her yard, unfortunately, or it goes down under Route 17, crosses the road into the bog on the other side of Route 17, and then that bog actually drains into another bog. So as I sit here and listen to this, I'm thinking, shouldn't somebody else be involved with the approval of what's going on with the increase of the number of horses, like from the environmental protection? And is the school concerned? Like, where is their well? Is there potentially their well water going to be affected by contamination from 24 horses? And another thing, has the town told them they can only have a certain number of horses? So once they get 24 and now 10 more people are like, we have horses, can you board ours? Are they gonna say, of course we can? So I have shared the same concern that Susan does. And another concern that I have is the impact on this residential neighborhood. My husband did extend courtesy to the city to ride her horse on our property. Other horse riders come, through the property, and I've seen them coming out of the neighbor's property. I don't know if the neighbor gave him permission, but One of the people that lived there seemed to be surprised to see horses coming out of their driveway. And not sure how they access our property, because another day I met a woman on a horse who would come up the old snowmobile road, which is on our property, and her intent was to just keep going down the road to, take her horse wherever she wanted to.
Are you certain that someone is from our farm? Because the only places that we ride or have told our porters they can ride is on the dirt road and through the trails in the woods back to our house. I've never told anyone they can ride on your property.
So that's my point. You don't have to give people permission, they just take it upon
So
themselves.
we only have one other person other than myself that trail rides.
She said she was 21. Her horse had like these special boots on his feet. She said, because I say feet, but you say horse. And she wanted to take him down because Ledford Drive is a private road. The town does not maintain it. And she wanted to go further down where, I don't know if it's Jack Carlson and
I think this,
Jan Gould.
I think we're getting a little bit of feel because.
So
Well, the
There's a
comment
trust
on that would be, I'm more than happy to speak to people. I certainly didn't give anyone permission to just go ride wherever they want to ride. And I certainly wouldn't want them doing anything that they, shouldn't be doing or it's upsetting
That's
anyone.
fine.
And that's why we came to you when I wanted to use it and asked. Like, I certainly would never have gone in without asking you.
Right.
So I certainly would not allow or, and I would prefer, like, if you just tell me, I can certainly say this is not allowed. I did not know anybody was going out back there to ride.
Now on your Facebook page, you have nice trail riding and you're on the Ledge Drive with the horses. And then there's a picture of the horses like in the barway that comes from the school. So like, as I said, if there's 24 horses, you can't keep track of everybody on a horse. There's going to be a negative impact on the surrounding properties where the horses are traveling. I mean, there's just no way you can keep track of that.
Right to post the land.
Well, it's the same as
Yes.
snowmobilers. They can't just ride willy-nilly on anybody's land. So, I mean, it's the same with horses. They're not gonna just, and
Well,
if
they
she did, I apologize. But what I'm saying is, someone needs to be told so that they can be told you're not allowed to do that.
But how are you gonna keep track of, so every time a horse comes out of our property, we need to run down to your house?
I don't know what the proper procedure is to take care of that. I'm just saying that I wouldn't expect that somebody should do that. So,
I think you should post your land if you don't.
Well, the property that abuts ours, they live on the Adele Road, they have got theirs adequately posted. And the person that I ran into on the horse had told me she had gone all along that property line and knew she couldn't go on that property because it was posted. And she had actually inquired about going down to my our other property on Main Street. There's another path I could go down. And I said, please don't go down that path. Because you're not there. And I understand that you think I'm getting off track, but there was a negative impact to this neighborhood. Everybody that lives down there, not just the waste from the horses, but 24 horses living there with people thinking they can go anywhere. There was posts on their Facebook page that they're taking their horses to the pond from the Lindsay's house and how happy the horses are there. So that's my concern, the waste and the use of other people's property to promote their business.
People can post the land if they want.
Correct.
Cindy,
yes.
would you be able to?
I'm
Solve
sorry.
this problem.
Honestly, wish you would have just told me so I could help. I've never, not wanted to help. That's why I've always spoken with you about what we're able to do on your property. So I apologize if that's happening.
Would it be difficult to put up a map on your barn or something showing people this is where you're allowed to go?
No, not difficult
It
at
seems
all.
like that would just,
Yeah,
cause you know how people are.
sure,
And then
Absolutely.
they know, okay, you can't go there, don't even try.
sure. Yeah, I
Like
would,
that,
and
it's
we have told people where they can, but I'm certainly happy to do that as well. Put a map up and let people know.
Easier.
And I also agree with posting the property, because we have hundreds and hundreds of snowmobilers in our town. And I don't see how it's any different as far as just saying they don't just go anywhere. And, if it's posted, they're not gonna go. but I'm happy to do whatever I need to do to take
That
care of
might
it.
just
Yeah,
have this not become an issue later.
yeah. Oh, and I don't want to have an issue. I'm certainly not interested in having an issue with my neighbors.
So I have a question, also on your, website. You say we have trails on our property in local walking trails.
Right.
So where are the local walking trails?
You're allowed to ride a horse on any of the Readfield trail system.
Right,
Well, I mean, you said right next door.
right.
So-
So we ride the lake road. We have permission to ride down the lake roads, both lake roads. We have permission to ride on, and that is and that's the only loop I knew that people were going on.
Today, when I was walking through the woods, there were horses, you could see where the horses had been on the kids' trail.
Right.
We're
We're
allowed
allowed
to
to
be
be
on
on the kids.
You are.
Yes.
Okay,
And
We're
I
allowed to
also,
be on that
I also think what's happening is when they come up, what road is it next to? What's the road right across from the fence? The dirt road,
I can't think of it. Four.
Thorpe Shores. I think what happens is when the horses, people go down Pine Rest and then come up Thorpe Shores, they probably come onto Lynn.
Well, they do, then they go
And then
through
they
the
go
trail
behind the
on
school.
school, they come back, that's the trail,
So
that's
if
our
you
trail.
like them not to go on that section of road, they'll just make them walk their horses back down the road to the farm.
Right. Well, I
But
guess,
we'd asked permission just to go that piece of the road to go, because there's a trail right behind the school that comes right out behind, right into our farm.
so,
I think we
I
should-
want to post
I
it
think we should
on
move
Facebook.
on. I think we
About
should
trail
go on
etiquette.
They can take this offline.
Yeah.
I would like
This
to
isn't
say
our,
something.
our decision.
One more thing. They have a post on their Facebook page about trail etiquette, telling, like me, what I have to do on my private road if they're going down there with a horse. I need to behave in a certain way. If I have a dog, my dog has to be.
Yeah, that's not. what I-
That's just horse safety
You
by
see what
law.
I'm saying? This is the impact on the neighborhood. It's not just the ways. There's other impacts that should be considered.
Is there anyone else in the public want comments?
Ariel Cousins, I live at 43 Adele Road. Mine is the posted property, I think they're talking about. We abut evidence and use property on the east side in the woods. And they've been good neighbors, we haven't had a problem. We post our land because when we purchased our property in 2016, we know that people had previously hunted on it. And we have animals, and at that time nephews that came and mined in the woods, and so we posted our property line. I wasn't aware that people were trail running right along our property line, because there's no actual trail. There are old snowmobile trails that go through our property that I believe were discontinued at some point, and picked up their property on Main Street. There's a private trail now.
No, there's no trail there.
There's not.
It's been discontinued.
Okay.
People sometimes will, go through, like, they don't have control of that.
And so from my point of view, I'm an architectural designer, so I'm familiar with codes and whatnot. So my concerns for my property would be manure management and the steep hill that goes down to our property line. And is there runoff, if manure is being pushed outside of the fence line, is that close to our property? Because our manure pile, I have 3 horses too, so I know a little bit about, the goings on. Our manure is in a kind of depressed area in the center of our property. It does take out trees. It's far enough away from anyone that it hasn't been a problem. But I would say for all these concerns, because there's a change in use for the property from being a residential use to now agriculture for horse farm, and then we're changing from agriculture to agriculture intensive, that because there's a change in use, that we have to address drainage issues and any kind of impact that expanding the horse business would have on the community. So I think the drainage issue is legitimate. I think if there's trespassing issues, that needs to be addressed somehow. But as far as my property, I think it's really just runoff down that hill and keeping manure well enough away that it doesn't start killing trees that could then fall onto our property. I think that was it. Oh yeah, and the leaf blower noise, that was sometimes at 6 in the morning.
One question?
I respond to the town manager.
One second. Do you have anything to say? Do you have any comments?
I wasn't planning to say anything. My name is Pam O'Keefe, and we live at 59 South Road, across the street from the paddock. The only, for me, the biggest concern is the number of horses now. I think until now, there was a smaller number, more like 8 or 10 that you boarded. And I don't know what other land there is, but it seems like a small area for 24 horses. That's really my biggest concern. We don't, I'm sure we get some of the runoff from a heavy storm. But there is a ditch which needs to be maintained actually. But we don't so far have the same problem that Susan has, and we're right next door. But I know about the trail going down Pine Rest and around Thor, and that you have permission from the people who live on, down at the bottom of Pine Rest and so forth. But I just think that's a lot of horses. And actually, I think there is, up at the corner, and near the school, there is something along the fence which looks like a big pile, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we love the horses, just not in that number. I think that number is way too high for the amount of land that you have, that it looks as though you're going to be using to board. But
What is the story with the numbers of horses?
I think that, I'm not sure, like, do you mean, what do you mean, what everybody keeps bringing up, the number of horses?
Yeah, I mean, how many do you have now?
17. We have 17, and someone I think had asked us how many horses we thought we might have, and I said no more than 24. Our horse boarding facility is a natural habitat, so it's quite different than a traditional paddock boarding style. So having more horses on that type is not the same thing as having that many horses on a traditional paddock style boarding facility. The horses live on a 2-mile track. It's 15 feet wide and it winds through the woods and around the fields. It's an environmentally friendly way to board horses, as well as a way to keep horses moving and using less land and the ability to have more horses. I don't know if that helps with like the understanding about like that it's, yes, if it was 8 acres of property and we were doing traditional paddock boarding with dry lots, we would have complete erosion, and that's not the case.
but
That's
all the
not,
boarding is, all the boarding is at night is up along those
No.
buildings.
the horses,
They don't,
they never close. The horses live outside on the track, moving around. Horses don't sleep at night. They don't go inside. So like they go in and out if they want to, but they're just constantly moving around that track all day, all night. That's how it works. Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure how the number of horses and allowing our boarders to have a building to exercise their horses safely. I guess they do have something to do with the other. I'm not attempting to grow an enormous horse farm. I mean, it's a lot to take care of as it is. Having a few more horses, yep, we'll have a few more horses. We just want to allow the people that we have to have a safe place to exercise their horses in the rain and the snow and the ice. So, I mean, the indoor riding arena isn't going up to double the size of our horse business. It's going up to allow people to have a safer place to ride, because there's 7 months out of the year collectively that they can't ride at all.
Thank you. Susan, do you want to come on?
He just mentioned there that he told me what to do, which he did not tell me what to do. He actually probably talked with my son. And I did get a list of contractors, and I called a bunch of contractors, and nobody responds. It's a small job, I'm sure. Everyone wants big jobs. My son, as I explained, did do some digging, and it hasn't helped anything. It makes things worse. It's eroding more. Yes, I need contractors, but it's just a small property, and, you know, it's not a big money maker.
When they were building the structure now, it seems like you have a problem.
Right, but I got more drainage when those rock drains went into the culvert. That's a change. I feel that, and again, I had problems before that, yes, but I got a lot of water that summer. And as I have pictures of this spring, just with an inch of rain, the water comes pouring through there. I feel that should have been a permanent action, or the contractor should have said, well, we're building drains right directly across from a culvert. They went right into the culvert. Somebody should have told me. I think it's negligent. And I think the town should have responded to that.
Talk to the select board and road committee.
I have sent
That's
that.
kind of, yeah, that's really not our.
Okay, but again, with a business, I mean, I'm just asking everyone to look at everything about the business.
How wide is the vegetative barrier
That we have now,
right?
we've got over 200 feet of vegetation between the building and the road and the ditch.
Is that proposed to stay vegetative?
Yes.
If I may, back when my great aunt Ruth owned this piece of property, at some point when the boilers were there, the town came and instead of putting the ditch, instead of putting the drain pipe across my aunt's driveway, I think my aunt probably said she didn't want it or something. Okay, I don't know how it went, but I think my great aunt Ruth didn't want that there. So they put the culvert across under the road over to their property, so it didn't go any further down South Road. I think that's where the first problem started. And there's no way that all that water from the school and from our property and even further up the road, all those ditches come down, and when it gets to our property, it all goes across the street to her. That never, ever should have been done. I don't, my aunt Ruth shouldn't have been able to say no to that. That culvert should go under our driveway. We have plenty of room there to dig a swale, put tons of riprap in to slow any water down going into the next ditch, into the next ditch, into the next ditch. That's where she shouldn't be taking any of this water on. The fact that it comes down and stops at our house, and all goes to her, makes sense that she's getting, with the new turnaround that the elementary school put in for COVID, all that hard pan up there, all that water rushes into the ditch. That all comes right down to us.
Sounds like both of you went to the select board kind of agenda. Okay.
Because it really, the town needs to know whether, and we'll be okay to put the culvert in to alleviate the
Because
water
she
that's
brought
going to
this
her
to
lake.
us quite some time ago, and we had no idea it was happening, and had said, when this is going, when we do the construction here, we're gonna fix that, because that's not fair, and Kevin felt like, well, this is kind of my family's issue, Aunt Ruth said no, and somebody listened.
Why should the neighbor
She's
have to take
suffering.
that?
Right.
Because the town just decided to stick a culvert there instead of allowing the water to continue to go down the hill like it does from the rest of the way up the road. It comes all the way down from the school, comes all the way down that ditch, and when it gets to my driveway,
It goes to her,
it goes right over to the.
yeah, so it's.
Why? Why wasn't the culvert put under our driveway with riprap at the bottom of our driveway to help slow any water down to the next ditch and keep going down the road like it should?
If
There's
you,
no reason it should cross the road.
you go to the next house down beyond yours, there's a ditch there. or-
Yeah.
But there's not a culvert.
There's not a culvert, there's, I think they might, over one in there.
Yeah.
They
it
do,
goes up
under
to
their
this,
driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. So Susie takes all the water from the school and God knows where else it comes from, because it comes to my house and takes a left
So an
turn.
issue that 100% needs to be taken care of, and we support helping her take care of it. So whoever we have to talk to next with that. But I agree too, anything else that happens is gonna continue to come to you, 100%.
Before we close the public hearing, are there any other questions people have?
So just to clarify on the number of horses. So you said you're currently board
17.
17-ish.
We currently have 17 and we figured 24 was the top number that we would ever want to get.
How long have you had 17?
Let's see, we had 17.
We've had at least 12 for the past year. or
I'd say
so.
12 to 15 for the past 2 years.
Lose one, get some, lose one.
Yeah,
get
they-
some.
they're all-
Come and go, so we've been in double digits for a while, so pushing it to 17.
So
it's
it's
just
probably been at 17 for about 5 months.
There's no set regulation on how much land per horse
Right.
in Maine. There's just,
If the animals are mistreated, then
that's
Well, then it'd be-
different, but I don't believe
Yeah.
that. But
Right.
there is a regulations on how much shelter. they have to
Shelter.
have,
Mhm.
but not how much land.
It's like livestock. and stuff.
Right.
Right. We need to have enough shelters so that they can all get under shelter if they choose.
Sure.
Thanks, I just was clarifying.
Yeah.
Sure. I thought I heard you say that.
keep it brief.
Thank you. How many, so the town doesn't have to keep track of how many horses that they decide to bring in there? I
Now,
mean, it seems to be a surprise that, okay,
that's something we have to like.
I sympathize with your perspective, but that's also asked this question.
right, okay. So if they do decide that 30 might be, once they, 24, this is easy, we want 6 more. I mean, it's within their ability to make that decision for themselves.
So. Close the public hearing. Discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Is there one behind us?
No, nobody wrong.
Okay, so in terms of the decision, what do you think?
Well, I'll start by, I have no expertise with regard to manure management or minimizing, for that matter, minimizing runoffs. I defer to the expertise on this board, as well as the evidence presented to us in any given application. What I do have some expertise in is reading ordinances and statutes. And I will say, I also, the minutes of the Board of Appeals meeting concerning the variance that was first granted, then vacated on the ground that the board lacked jurisdiction. Nothing in the minutes tells me that the town attorney has ever given an opinion about whether or not this is an agricultural structure. Now, if the town attorney gives us an opinion that this is an agricultural structure, I will say, okay. But the way I read the ordinance, I have difficulty seeing it that way, in terms of the indoor riding facility. The definition, there's no definition in the land use ordinance of agricultural structure, but there is a definition of agriculture. And it says, among other things, agriculture is essentially synonymous with farming. It doesn't include forest management, or timber harvesting, or livestock confinement, feeding operations. To me, the definition that's closer is the one for commercial recreation. Again, it doesn't, and it so happens, unfortunately, that has an impact on this application because of the height issue. again, if our town attorney says, oh, this is an agricultural structure, I won't say, okay, but my own opinion is that it's more akin to a commercial recreational structure. Which would get us into that issue of the table and what the height restriction is. I have no desire particularly, again, I have no opinion about the other issues that have come up. I have nothing negative to say about this application. I'm just saying, to me, it's a legal issue. It has to be resolved.
I just want to add something. At our last meeting, Paula said that she had spoken to the Department of Agriculture people. Right?
I thought this issue had been settled for the last time. Or that it was an agricultural activity.
Well, who said it?
No, I mean, I remember Paula talking about that, and I thought that it was something that had been settled. But I can't remember whether specifically she said that the town attorney looked at it or not.
It's interesting, the town attorney was present at the May 29th Board of Appeals meeting, and the minutes don't reflect that the attorney gave an opinion one way or another. The minutes reflect, as I said, that Al Brzonka raised the issue, and that the minutes say, that the answer was that it would be our job to decide that.
I'm reading the ordinance definition of agriculture to include what you're saying it doesn't say, but maybe I'm reading a different page or something, but it's on page 128. And I'm reading where it says traditional cultivation, the raising of livestock, including cattle, horses, swine, to provide income, including farm stands, greenhouses. Okay. And then it does say that statement that you said, Peter. If you then go to the next definition, which is agriculture intensive, which one of the members of the public also suggested, it actually does have a little bit more specificity there, including commercial agriculture uses or activities, which are defined by the following two criteria. Contains at least 3,000 square feet of floor area in aggregate or non-residential structure associated with the agricultural use, such as a barn or structure, which is great. Yours is like much more. And generally combined total of 20 or more vehicles, which is interesting. So I think that, agriculture intensive is, it's somewhere, but I do believe it's an agricultural use, I guess, is my interpretation, and I believe that the structure that they're looking to build is specifically for agricultural purposes by definition, therefore. I don't really know how you could argue that it's not that.
That's how I could.
Oh, you
Yeah, look at the definition of what commercial recreation is. I think this is.
So it's not recreation. I mean, it's just like livestock, that's no different than like a cow barn or something, which we've had before, which has been classified as, why is a horse different than a cow?
It's not, it's still livestock. It's right, a horse and a cow, as far as regulations are concerned, they're the exact same animal.
That's what I mean.
Right down the slaughter.
I don't understand why we do different.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an agricultural building. And if you have horses, they have to be trained, or they have to be. So you need a place to train them, which is the barn.
And it's still require planning board review.
The impact of that decision, Peter, what is the impact of the decision, whether it is or isn't that? Is it just a variance of height? Is it?
Unfortunately, it's that height issue.
Is that the trigger? So,
Yeah,
But if you, Henry, and I believe it right, if you read the intensive agriculture definition, those bounds and other structures.
What do you want to say?
If we looked back at the minutes of the last meeting, Paula stated that it was an agricultural structure, that she went to her friends at the Department of Agriculture to be sure that it was an agricultural structure, so that we knew that the preceding information that we brought to the variance board was a non-issue due to exemption. So it was stated that at the very beginning that that was no longer part of this, the height restriction was off the table because the Department of Agriculture, had verified with her that yes, it's an agricultural.
Is that in the minutes, Jonathan?
We had that, that they were applying for their indoor riding arena with a total height of 40 feet, and due to this being an agricultural use, the height being over 35 feet is allowable, but that's all it says.
She went into further detail than that?
Right,
Yeah.
and
May not be
it may be on the video, but she went on to tell us that her friends at the Department of Agriculture helped her to determine that it was intensive agriculture, and that's how they did it.
I remember, that's what I recall too.
Yeah.
They classified riding facilities as agricultural.
That was a July 22nd, is that right?
It's the first one that we,
So that's July 22nd was after the May. So. All of this,
July 22nd was, yes, that first meeting, that's right.
We were to work to make a confirmation,
Well,
if we were worried.
But I wasn't in the meeting, so maybe.
in terms of maintaining the buffer area,
I'm sorry.
in terms of maintaining the buffer area.
Yeah.
You've told us about things that you're gonna do, like install the riprap and shrubbery.
Right.
But in terms of the future, you wanna make sure that the buffer is maintained to the road, the school.
Yeah.
For visual reasons and for control of stormwater runoff.
Right.
So it would be good if we could specify like a distance, you know, like 25 feet or 50 feet of buffer in the road or sidewalk. Well, at least on the road, the sidewalk would be different.
The road is at least 250 feet away.
So if you say.
And it's already vegetated, it's
Right,
grass and
so if you
trees.
say you maintain a
Yes.
vegetated buffer for
Yep.
50 feet for this, from the right of way of the road.
Yes,
They talked about putting in shrubbery around a new building.
Right.
Do you think that,
Yeah, I think that should be done too.
is there a way to specify that,
Yeah.
how wide that should be? Or what were you thinking about as far as the shrubbery around the new building?
for what types of shrubbery?
No, like how wide that buffer be?
Like a one bush wide or?
I don't think at least staggered.
I was
bushes
thinking
down.
double rows, yeah, staggered.
Kind of like we had.
So I don't
kinda like
know
we did
exactly
before.
how wide that
It's gonna be
becomes.
about 10 feet.
Is that 8 or 10 feet? Yeah,
Probably 10 feet, maybe.
I would say from the whole, yeah, from the outside of the building.
right.
And 90% of that. I would say 50 to 60% of that runoff waters, I believe, are property. Except maybe down back.
Yes,
I mean, I think
yeah.
you're gonna get some to the road, but I think as long as we fix that ditch, we're not gonna be able for a problem with water.
As long as-
Between the riprap on the side of the building.
the school's
the
above
vegetation-
us.
The school's above us,
And
we get
there's-
all their water.
Over 300 feet between the building and the driveway before it would go into the ditch.
Because the school is allowed to build up that ball field higher than our land. And the backstop actually sits right up against the stone wall, so there's no buffer from that softball field from our property. It's actually right on top of our house.
So if we say that there'll be a vegetated buffer, at least 10 feet wide around the structure.
Yeah. Yep.
And then 50 feet from the road,
We're long further, we're a lot
That's right.
further than 50 feet.
right, but just for the future,
Yes,
that makes sense. So we had a motion to approve the application as amended, subject to standard conditions and 50-foot buffer on the roadside. 10-foot buffer around the structure.
Around what?
The structure.
The structure, yes, yep.
So moved.
Is there a second
One second.
discussion?
Could I just add one more thing or ask a question on one more thing? Just, there was a lot of discussion tonight about the manure, and I made a comment earlier before the public could get some comment, which I thought was a good comment, and perhaps this is the case, but I would also like to suggest that we, this isn't about the building, but they maybe don't operate some of the equipment so early in the morning,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
I think that's
No issue with that, I didn't know.
reasonable feedback,
Sorry.
and we do apply those kinds of restrictions on lots of other approvals.
Are you suggesting a time?
Time, well, time.
6 a.m.?
Yeah, 6:01. I don't know, just kidding. But the second comment I had was, or question, I did mention the state of Maine has guidelines and regulations for manure management, and it's actually specifically cited in our land use ordinance. And I'm just wondering, do you abide by these, or are you aware of them? Do you use them? Do you not? I mean, just be honest, it doesn't, but if you don't, there's some specific language in here which you should.
I have not read it in the land use ordinance.
Okay.
We've discussed our manure management with, the Department of Agriculture because we are a licensed farm through the Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
With the composting of manure, but I don't know specifically what our town plan says.
And I haven't read these either, so I don't know the details, but they are in existence apparently. And they're not like ancient history either, so
Yeah.
in the last 15 years or so.
Right.
So I would suggest that,
Yeah.
not for the approval of the applicant.
Sure,
I
of course.
encourage you to look at those and incorporate those into your business. just because
I have a question. When do you plan to construct the building?
We are hoping to construct it in October.
And could you share the citation, where that's found in manure, so people know where to look?
The land use ordinance?
MSRA section 4.
Oh, it's in MSR.
2, 40 pages. It's on, page 86, but it's cited in multiple places.
But the Department of Agriculture must have to.
It is, it's under the nutrient management law, and the Department of Agriculture produces these things. They're called manure utilization guidelines, management guidelines. So, developed November 1st, 2001.
Part of the standard conditions that we always, that they have to operate in compliance with state, federal.
Yeah. That's what I brought it up.
So it's implied.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed?
I'm abstaining because I think that, I know I don't oppose the applicant motion. I don't oppose the project, but I think again, in the absence of an opinion from our town attorney, I can't be, I'm not persuaded that there isn't a height issue still.
Yes.
We got a letter from the town saying they've gone to the attorney. The reason that the appeals board had to drop our case is because it's an agricultural structure
And it's exempt.
and it's exempt. We have that letter at home from the town. The state's just that. And then Paula came in the last meeting, the first thing she did was that before we even started, she wanted to make sure, she put it out there, that she had done the research, that she had done the process to make sure that we follow under those guidelines, otherwise we probably wouldn't be at this meeting right now.
Yeah, it's really good.
One thing, I mean, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but it seems to me that, the letter that we received from, the town manager, seemed to differ a lot in restrictions that you guys were making of stormwater. And then, well, you were making also. So I would just really suggest that and if you can get together and go to the select board, talk about this.
Yeah,
Because-
it needs to be. it needs to be.
Because, you know, it's just like, what you're describing is different than what we read in this letter, so. And I mean, the town, the town manager, I respect him a great deal, but, if you guys, you're living there, so you know what's happening. And if you can go and talk to the select board, I think that might be good, that might help you in some way, because, I think it's pretty much certain that the town cannot, work on private property. But if the culvert's in the wrong place, then, you know, maybe the town's got a responsibility there.
We're even willing to take on that responsibility, because I don't ever think that culvert should have gone across the street on her property. That never should have been allowed. I don't even know who was in charge back then, obviously it was a long, long time ago. But it should have been better thought through, that they should not have to take all the water from half the south.
Well, regardless of it's a building.
Right.
And the use of the property to rent, the water's not gonna stop, and it's only gonna get worse.
The water is a problem.
It needs to be addressed.
It does.
So should we, just at a ballpark, should we go to the road commissioner, or should we go to the select board, or should we go to both?
Select board. Okay, select board. Sounds correct.
And in conjunction with Ms. Williams.
Yeah.
Yes.
Together. The whole team here should go. The more of you that voice that concern
Yes.
and these expression of interest.
Even if it's at our expense, it needs to be addressed. Yeah, that's not fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have two more items. Can you guys go outside?
Folks, I get to go outside. It's good. It's so well.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good
Good to see
night.
you, thank you.
We have the minutes to deal with.
Oh, boy.
I didn't find any.
Isn't there one issue? I thought that I thought we made it clear that the application is for used car sales. We're not authorizing new car sales, right?
Where is it? I'm sorry.
So
Under Zach's?
Zach explained that he would like to add a small used car
Oh, okay.
sales one, and then down below, two paragraphs further, motion, starting with motion by me, to include used car sales,
Okay, yeah.
okay? Those were that's the only, this is trivial, but under public meeting, first like Cindy and Eben are applying for an indoor horse riding arena, right? We had the word horse
Oh, yes.
as opposed to
No, it could be,
I'm
Formula
not a
One.
horse person, I
All
just,
right.
it all means the same thing.
indoor snowmobile riding.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
There's one place too where you say premises, the city premises. And
I do remember them.
It's not trivial, but it's actually a very important word to have.
Any other comments?
Oh, it's in, so it should be premises.
Yeah.
It's under the motion of here, under the stuff that's under here.
Okay, yeah,
So I'll fix that too.
okay. Yeah, motion by Peter, yeah.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I haven't, that's the.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I'm staying.
And the final item is election of officers, which is chair and vice chair.
She's not even here.
Paula said that she would gladly serve as chair again.
Great.
Will you gladly serve as vice chair again?
Well, I was hoping Don would be here.
He knew it was coming.
We could wait till the next.
We could just nominate him when he's not here. Vote him in. Welcome back.
We can vote him in and then he can resign. if he's not doing it.
I mean, Paula does all the work, and the only thing I do with her is, I mean, she calls me to tell me what she's thinking of doing.
Right.
So, I mean, there's not much to, and then chairing a few meetings a year. Really want to do
I've done it before. I think Dawn would be a great choice.
I said the same thing.
I'm comfortable with my position.
it. Okay, so let's vote first on Paula. All those in favor? All of these two.
I didn't catch the first and second of that. So you motioned it, right? for
Yeah.
Paula?
Second,
I'm sorry, got it.
I'll vote for her.
Okay. John?
You're really gonna nominate.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? or
Okay.
I think we should, we'll vote him in, but we need to give him the opportunity to deny his position and then make Jack the backup.
Yes,
We'll add a condition.
12 month leave, right? If he's gonna. He'll have to give us a 12-month notice.
No, yeah.
Okay. So, Don, and if you,
We'll address that.
okay, we'll address that. Good. All those in favor?
I gotta be sure to come to every meeting now.
Let's see what happens when you're not here.
It's not safe.
You never know.
I'm so glad I showed up
Yeah.
tonight.
I know Chairman John had to ring to it.
We're done.
All right.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah.